everybody. Give me a video check and an audio check, people. Can you see and hear us?
My glasses over there. Let's see how they're working today. Six. Oh, that doesn't either.
If you wear them more often, they probably work better.
I don't know. John says, "Hi, John."
Hi, John.
Oh, John, David, and everything else. We're gonna have a fun show today because.
Hi, Jeff.
We're working on a.
Hi, Dave.
Dave. We're working on a new system whereby they send us videos from Central America. Eva accesses them via Dropbox, and then we see what they're doing, and then I can give them input based on the videos. So with the miracles of modern technology, I can kind of look over their shoulders from, gosh, I don't know how many miles away. It's over 1,000, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 miles away. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. Hey, Rock, how's it going?
Hi, Rock.
Looks like a pretty good mineralized zone in that picture, huh, Rock? It's entirely possible that'll all get mined out in the long run, but right now they're going to be high grading for a bit, you know. Hey, Shane. So that, I think that whole zone, you know, is running several grams per ton or better. You know, we'll see how it all turns out. Again, we're just getting to the point where we're starting to get some assays. It's extraordinarily frustrating, but they are currently working on getting. There's 2 labs down there. Theoretically, they're both, you know, multinational labs, kind of like ALS, that sort of thing. One's about an hour away. One's about 3 hours away. But there's bus service. So theoretically, all they have to do is take the samples down to the bus station, send them off. They show up at another bus station, and the guys from the lab pick them up there. Hello, Jean-Francois.
Hola, Jean-Francois.
Yeah. 1.5 megatons of 1 to 2 part per million tailings. Okay, let me write that down here.
Jane says, "Hola, Canicero de Rocas."
Give Rock Jean-Francois email. Okay, I got a note.
I've done 2 of those jobs and have advice I can give. Yay.
Okay. So anyhow, so they're working on getting, I would say, local assaying set up. They apparently have a trusted employee that's really sharp and a good negotiator. And so they'll probably send her in person with a few samples that we need to have run, and maybe do a little negotiating to see if she can get a better price if they get, you know, consistent stuff down there. I was planning on starting the actual dog and pony show at about 15 after the hour, give everyone a chance to show up so they're not, you know, kind of in the middle of everything when we start showing pictures and explaining.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, except for the whole Dropbox thing.
Yeah. So until then, we're going to do some more generalized subjects. We just got some new information today on stellar synthesis of gold. Apparently, it's not just neutron star mergers, but also certain stellar mass black hole accretion disks can also theoretically make gold reasonably efficiently, and magnetar flares can also make a reasonable amount of gold. So there was that one that it was a pretty sure it was a neutron star merger, and they figured that one neutron star merger made about the mass of the Earth in gold.
Hi, Mr. Virtue.
Let's see, yeah, that's not working too well. And another thing too, when we're showing the pictures, I won't be able to see the comments because it shows on my screen here. So when we're showing pictures, just be aware. Hold your comment. If you want them to come to me or Eva specifically, hold the comments until we go to where you're seeing me again. And then we can basically see what you're asking, etc. But let's see. Oh, another little interesting tidbit. We went down to the License Bureau a couple days ago, and we needed to renew the license on the truck, and we wanted to go with a vanity plate, which would have been Hard Rock 1, HRDRCK1. For whatever reason, it was deemed that the license plate Hard Rock 1 was too potentially objectionable to be allowed.
You're interested in finding easy gold. I hope no one will ever domesticate neutron stars. That would be fun.
Seems highly unlikely, Jean-Francois. If they can do that, they probably won't need any gold. But anyhow, so what is it now going to be? Minor 1?
Yeah, we're hoping, unless they decide that one's better.
Theoretically, when the plate comes in, it will be minor 1, MINER 1.
Well, then remember they also said that AU
minor?
Yeah.
That was pretty thick.
AUMINR.
Okay.
And they said gold MINR, GOLD MINR, GLD MINR was already taken. Problematic.
Problematic, yeah.
Yeah, they're very weird about this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with HRDRCK1. I just
we are very upset by
as to how that would be problematic. But such is life. My plans for the impact mill are coming along. That is a 3-bladed rotor. It's my understanding that a 3-bladed rotor will have less vibration problems, everything else being the same. For some reason, the harmonics and such are such that imbalances are not as critical. So I don't know, but I think we can fabricate that without too much trouble. If we successfully manage that, which I think we will, then I want to make a jig using that as the template, and then so that any future rotors will be real easy to make. I am of the opinion that this is going to be a pretty good device that should be able to compete successfully against, say, the Stutenroth line of impact mills. It has certain advantages to the Stutenroth mill, primarily that it's self-classifying and it transmits or transports the product somewhere else pneumatically. And it's just going to have certain advantages. It's my belief. That's why I'm going. Otherwise, I just buy Stutenroth. Stutenroth is a good stout mill. There's nothing soft about that. This one here, this mill, I did kind of a detailed analysis of how much steel it's going to take and how much the steel would cost and this and that and the other. And excluding cutting charges, I'm looking at about $2,500 worth of steel weighing about 900 pounds to make a complete thing. Then there's about 120 pounds for the engine, another miscellaneous hither and thithers for god-awful amount of bolts. How much is it? 2 times 8 times, so that's 16, 32 plus another 15, somewhere around 2.5 to 3 score bolts and nuts, which will weigh a few pounds. But I presume a total weight ready to go in the neighborhood of about 1,100 pounds, and a total cost of materials excluding cutting
Honey Bunny's here. Hello, Honey Bunny.
of about $5,000, it looks like, at this point. That's a rough estimate, not a super detailed one, but I mean, I was figuring the square inches of steel sheet and stuff like that. There will be a certain amount, of course, of inefficiency in the cutting, but we shall see what we shall see. It was also interesting that the steel supplier up in Great Falls, we've got stuff from before, they get their T1 and AR, all those plates come in 8 by 20 foot sheets, and they cut what you need off of it. So a standard size plate could be anywhere from 2 by 8 to 10 by 8. You know, it's basically what can you haul? So that's the sort of thing where it makes it a little more flexible in the design of the cutting plan. And I say, before I start cutting steel, I got to know all these details. So it's still got quite a lot of detail work to figure out, but it's not bad. The boys down there in Central America are making what I would consider rapid progress in tuning the mill. Right now, we're focusing mainly on the tables to get them to work more efficiently. And one of the huge problems with these tables, this is a top view of one of these Whiffley tables. This is all the grooved area here. Feed box is here. A wash water manifold is here. The table shakes this way. It's sloped a little bit down that way. So as you feed the slurry in here, the lighter materials tend to go into the tailings gutter. The heavier materials get caught in the grooves and advance forward. The grooves end along a line here. So as the wash water comes down, those heavies come out to where they're washed, and you wind up with a line of gold, a line of sulfides, a line of what I presume to be iron oxides, and then silica. And the idea is to adjust your table so that that line, you know, that the appropriate lines come to the area, you know, the point above this split between, you know, different hoppers. Now,
They're having a discussion here.
oh, the
Yeah, and Honey Buddy got a whole bunch of free timber, and there's a whole bunch of tungsten that Jean-Francois is talking about.
Oh, cool. So the problem with these tables is this edge right here. A normal table ends in a vertical edge with a lip on it. That means as soon as it gets off the tabletop, gravity takes over and hauls it straight down, and then it gets to the bottom of this lip and gets, drips right off the table edge. Unfortunately, this Chinesium table has a lip more like this. So it's coming along the table, getting nice clean lines. Then it heads over this lip, and as it's heading down, it gets messed up. And then when it gets to the edge, it can even run under this way. So we're working on a few little modifications. But why don't we go ahead and start the pictures now, little one.
Okay, you tell me what you want me to do.
First go to the mind picture.
Okay, well first let me get us to the screen here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to be looking at some pictures, so he's not going to be able to see your chats very easily, okay? If at all, because we're going to be showing some pictures today. Let's see here. Documents.
And I will need to use your mouse to move the pointer around too, just to point at certain things.
Okay,
at
so
times.
you want to show the edge disruption?
No, mine. The one that says mine.
Okay, hold on.
That's what I just said.
Mine.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. So here's a picture of the actual adits. There's a mineralized zone, which is relatively easy to see.
Can't put chat on the phone, David. A Chinesium table, yes.
Yeah. Now, here you see a clear boundary, and it looks like you got another one here, and this is your mineralized zone in this area here. As you can see, there was quite a pit dug in the past. Now they're tunneling in here. Basically, to a certain extent, they're high grading. It's assumed that this entire zone here is sufficient gold grade that if you can process it cheaply enough, say all the way down to maybe heap leaching, some of it we'll have to see, that you can process all this profitably. That's the presumption. Anyhow, this is from these tunnels here. You can see these bags. The miners basically are kind of hand selecting and bagging the ore for transport to the mill. Then it's crushed, ground through a ball mill, classified through a spiral classifier that we're working on getting rid of as quickly as possible, and then goes to the tables. So go to the table one, little one, that shows the, go ahead and call them up and I'll tell you which one.
Okay.
I guess she's got to do certain things just to go from one to the other.
Yeah, I have to do certain things to go from
It's
one to
kind of
the other,
complicated.
okay? That's why I said.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm merely explaining to them.
Okay.
The one that says,
Edge disruption, gold line, multiple bands, back cons pan.
okay, go to multiple bands.
All right, now.
Okay. This is one of the tables. Okay.
Okay.
Down here is the actual edge, and this is the slope I'm talking about that I think is quite problematic. This ore here isn't as rich, therefore you cannot see the gold line. In a little bit you'll see one where the gold line is actually visible. These are sulfides here. These, I presume, are iron oxides. and then this is primarily silica up here. As it goes off the edge, the idea is to split it so that you catch this stuff separately from that stuff there. Now what he's doing right now, this is a vacuum hose, and they've got a much bigger one than I recommended, but there's some reason for that. They're modifying it. You just don't go to Home Depot down where they're at. This is going to be a much smaller hose, and that will allow them to actually vacuum the gold line off at the top here. The clean gold line is higher up on the table than what I'll call a mixed zone here, where there's sulfides overlying gold that's on the tabletop. And we'll see that in a minute here, but that's what he's doing. This is possibly going to be for getting a real good clean con, or it could also just be for testing or whatever to see what's going on. But it does seem to be doing a good job of picking that up. Okay.
All right. No, I'm going to pull this out long enough for you to look at here. Yeah, Rock wearing sunglasses, a Rock wearing sunglasses.
Spiral classifier, also known as a sand screw, Jean-Francois, is really good at separating stuff according to settling velocity and not letting the stuff with the higher settling velocity go further. So basically, it's a giant gold trap. And it just keeps recirculating the gold into the ball mill until it gets
beat to death and floats. So a lot of it could be floating off on the water in the tailings pond for all anybody knows.
I say, we don't know, but...
Okay, so you got edge disruption, gold line, or
let's go to the gold line.
Okay.
Okay. I'll explain that in a little bit. Now here, you can see the actual line of gold at the top of the sulfides band. And the idea is to actually suck that off carefully. And if you suck it off back here, then as this works further down the table, any gold that's underneath the sulfides can work its way up a little bit and become visible, and then you can suck it off again. That's the theory. Depends exactly on how the dynamics are working, but I think that it will in fact do that way. The water is washing this way, and the material is being pushed this way, and so it's kind of washing it from the side and pushing it down slope a little bit. And whatever is hardest to get down slope is what stays at the top, and the next easiest thing to push is there. So that's the idea. We need a much smaller hose and suck the gold line off and see if you can get a really clean separation of that. Okay, now, little one, disruption. Okay.
Hold on a second. I need to figure out where we are. Okay.
I don't know. So anyhow, here we have that same gold line coming to the edge of the table. And as it comes over the edge of the table, things just start flowing downhill and stuff. And see what happens. This nice, heavily segregated area just gets disrupted to beat heck. Becomes this wide and is mixed in with a lot of sulfides. That's undesirable. We're working on some issues. One thing we're going to see if we can't do is essentially separate it up here by putting a little something stuck to the tabletop and pushing this stuff down, and hopefully the gold that's under there will separate out a little better. And then when you get to the edge of the tabletop, if you put something here that creates, I mean, it's raised, so it'll actually physically split the material at this point here, and that will allow you to get a nice splitter down here that can catch precisely A or B because there will be a gap between the two. That's the evil plan. We'll see how well that works. Now go to gold pan. Yes, that's the only one left, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And here is a picture of the vacuum concentrates where they sucking off that gold line. Again, that's way too big a a vacuum hose to get a good clean split. But then he panned it out, and you've got gold sitting up there, probably less than half a gram. Your sulfide's down at the bottom. And as you can see how fine it is, well, that's because it's got to be beat to death to get out of that spiral classifier. So that's what we've got going there. That's what's happening. Go ahead and close the pictures now, little one. And I'll go ahead and go back to the chat. Okay. So,
Bunny, get Jean-Francois' email from Keith. We'll exchange phone numbers. They're
Okay.
talking about the tungsten nodules.
okay.
Grabbed with a payload or sieved, and voila.
Okay.
All
Anyhow,
right, so there's your back.
so what they're doing, the spiral classifier. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a sand screw? It's kind of like an Archimedes screw with a bad seal. Anyhow, you can see pictures of it if you look at the stuff from Mount Baker. They use it for a dewatering screw, which is a good purpose for it. Basically, you have a trough here with a giant screw in it. And the motor's up here and it turns it. And if you pour a slurry in here, then the heavier stuff settles to the bottom and gets drug up along the bottom until it discharges there. As a dewatering screw or a desliming device, it works great.
Jean-Francois says try to attach from the top a little fin that will deflect sideways the surface water but not touch the solids. It might help clean the sulfides while leaving the heavies in place.
We're working on some various things. Jean-Francois?
David Villa said they had one on Freddie Dodge's mine rescue, and Kodak says it's a very small screw to attach 2 grains of sand.
No. But anyhow, let's say the problem with this is if you're dumping the output of a ball mill into it, then all the heavier gold is going to settle to the bottom because this is the outfalls. Okay? So if it can't float across here and come out there,
Hi, AAA Beverages. How are you?
Howdy. So that automatically means all the larger pieces of gold go back into the ball mill, go back into the ball mill, until they're finally beat to crap and can finally make it out. So the plan is, my opinion, this device should never be in a gold mill. Okay? So instead, what we're doing, if here's the ball mill.
Yeah, this device should be nowhere near anybody's balls. Quite simple.
Okay. So this is the ball mill. And what they're doing is building a cage right here that they're going to wrap with 100 mesh screen and turn this into a trommel drum. Come on. And then there will be a catch here that takes it to the tables. Now, this way you're not relying on settling velocity to separate particle size. It's an actual physical sort by particle size. Okay? This is a much better way of screening the output of a ball mill. The problem with this is that, and this discharges and you want to recirculate it. For now, we're just going to leave the sand screw in place, let this discharge here, and then a trough is going to go kind of to the side and out, but it's going to miss this. But that way, we'll use the sand screw for the moment as a recirculation device, but it's really far from ideal. But at least it won't be trapping gold. That's the idea. And so that should improve the grinding circuit up with what?
Mr. Virtue's asking whether there's a 100 mesh screen involved anywhere.
Yeah, 100 mesh screen. If you don't know what that means, it means a screen with 100 holes to the inch. This is fairly standard stuff for...
Hold on a second, he'll be right back, folks.
Yeah, I'm right here. This is fairly standard stuff for milling and such.
I think he's asking why is there a screen involved. That's
No, I
my
think
guess.
he's trying to say what is a 100 mesh screen. So a 100 mesh screen, it allows particles through
Rock Butcher's back and starting to rehydrate.
that are about half a hundredth of an inch across, 0.0059 inches.
Which doesn't help anybody in the real world.
Okay. So they're fairly small particles. 100 mesh doesn't have much gritty feel to it. Okay. It's pretty fine. That may be more than we need to grind it to get it out of there, but most ores, if you grind it to 100 mesh, you'll get good mineral liberation. And so we haven't done a proper particle size study and mineral liberation study on this,
Yeah.
but it's the sort of thing that should be done to optimize it in the future. But right now, we're just making a good guess, get it somewhere in the ballpark, and improve the production right now. What we're trying to do is get a good stream of money coming in so that they can then take their time. I don't know about 10 times finer. Screen door screen is about 16 mesh.
Use and abuse.
16 mesh is 0.046. Not actually too far off.
Yeah.
You know, 0.0469. So you just move the decimal point, you'd be fairly close. And so that will reduce a lot of the real fine grind, and especially the gold. 100 mesh gold particle is going to fall right to the bottom here, take it back in the ball mill, ground up. I think the largest particles we were seeing, little one, were 200 mesh.
Yeah, just about.
Was the maximum size particle.
Well, we just want to stop the gold from getting beat to the point where it can
Where it's hard to recover too.
blow away.
Yeah. Anyhow, so overgrinding is not desirable. This will reduce the overgrinding dramatically. Another interesting data point, when you saw that picture, can you go back to the one that says gold line?
Hold on, folks. I gotta get the picture back.
Yeah, that's the one. Anyhow,
Hold on. I gotta get back to that screen. Okay.
okay. So anyhow, if you look at that tabletop, you can see the line of, there's a gold line there that's pretty clean. What they did before they came down here the first time is they took a pan and basically tried to catch that gold line as it comes off the edge, and in a separate container catch the sulfides that you see listed there. Now those sulfides we called concentrates below the gold line for obvious reasons. When they brought them here, the first set of samples, then you can get rid of that at your convenience, little one. When they brought their first set of samples here,
Hold on, I gotta get back to the regular screen.
we went and
Muscle says he ain't dealing with 30.
yeah.
And Jean-Francois says, what's a ballpark particle mesh for leaching gold?
It would depend on whether you're going to be tank leaching or heap leaching or vat leaching. Is it high grade? And if you're talking with tailings as opposed to waste dumps, it's already ground probably.
Rock Butcher says when he writes reports for Americans, he has to remember to spell it sulfides.
What do you spell it?
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. What's the metric word for sulfides? But anyhow, so that sulfide band was what they called concentrates below the gold line. Now, we took that sample that they brought me and we send a split off to ALS.
Hi, Red Wing.
For fire assay. Okay.
They spell it with the PH,
With the
the way it
PH.
should be spelled.
And so we sent a sample off for fire assay, and we also bottle rolled a sample. And the fire assay from ALS still hasn't shown up yet. No, wait a minute. It did show up, didn't it? From ALS? No, because that's the second set. The first set they already delivered. Yeah. So we have yet to receive the fire assay on that.
ALS is getting ridiculous for anybody
Well, they're a
other
big
than
boy.
big
They don't
guys.
care about little guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we haven't got theirs. What we did do was we took another split and sent it off to Lawrence Hiddle, whose company Fast Fire Assay is in fact pretty darn fast. And then I roasted the material and sent a split to Lawrence. And I also did a bottle roll on the roasted material. Now, what we found out was that, and I'll just give relative numbers here, okay? When we did the first bottle roll, we got, let us say, 1 unit. Bottle roll, and this is standard, and this is roasted. Okay? So the bottle roll got 1 unit of gold out of the stuff, and then we roasted it, and it got 8.5 units of gold out of the rock. Now this is dissolving in EcoGold-X solution. So what that's showing is that the roasting breaks down those sulfides and releases gold that's trapped inside them. It's crystal locked, okay? As opposed to just gold that is stuck to the sulfides, okay? Now, when I got the fire assay back from Hiddle, this had 8.5 units. This had 8.5 units. And again, that confirms this is the actual amount of gold in the rock, because the fire assay uses a totally different method of extracting the gold. It doesn't care if it's locked in sulfides. It'll still get it. Okay? So the fire assay confirmed this number means we're getting a pretty good recovery after roasting and a horrible recovery before roasting. Okay?
Fire assay will give you total gold,
Yep. And so this is what we've done. Those sulfides there have a fair amount of gold.
Rock says uncapsulated, encapsulated.
Yeah. Okay, so it definitely has a lot of crystal lock gold and
And
sulfides.
Jean-Francois said you must have gotten sulfur dioxide upon roasting. Yeah, we did.
Yep,
Not much.
I did it outside. It's a small quantity, no big deal. So anyhow, that shows us that there's gold in the sulfides that is not amenable to leaching. You have to break it down first. In the sulfides it's not sticking on the outside. However, Rock, we're getting a lot of free gold also. Okay?
Yeah, I don't stand downwind all right.
There's not a whole lot of arsenic in it, though. That's a good thing. Although I didn't have a mercury on the multi-element. I mean, I just didn't have it done, so I'm not sure. But anyhow, so that tells us that the sulfides need to be roasted. When I was physically looking at this sample under the microscope, it was also pretty clear to me that there was a lot of silica still left in it. This is anything but a clean sulfide con. As a matter of fact, I estimated over 95% of it was still quartz. Okay?
Oh yeah, it looked ridiculous.
Therefore, if you were to try and roast and then leach that much material, you're going to spend literally 20 times the effort than if you roasted and leached pure sulfides. Therefore, we recommended, and they have barrels of concentrates that they've stockpiled from before where they were getting their concentrates leaching thing set up. We suggested they retable those concentrates. Okay? Yep, Rock is absolutely right. That sulfur dioxide makes sulfuric acid in your lungs. That's why you stay out of it.
Which is really gross and disgusting.
So today he sent me some videos where they were hand feeding one of the tables. They've got a water spout right there that they can add water.
We'll get to your question in 1 second, Jean-Francois.
Okay, what is it?
He wants to know, can thiourea, sulfur compound, leach in the presence of sulfides?
It can't if it's in the sulfide. Okay, in the presence of sulfide, I think it can. Not sure. But I know that if it's inside the sulfides, you've got to break the sulfides down. Okay? So anyhow, they were taking concentrates that they previously acquired from processing ore and putting it back on the table. This is called retabling. It's very, very common in the industry, but a lot of people don't think about it. So they're taking these concentrates and feeding them on the table. They were getting another gold line. Okay, there's still plenty of free gold in there. They had a sulfide line. And they had a lot of silica going off. We haven't had a chance to do a thorough analysis of what's happening here. And so what they're doing is, again, they can take the existing concentrates they have, suck the free gold off of it, and clean up the sulfide concentrates. Oh yeah, it's not that hard, especially as using the numbers that they're saying. Out of 20 tons in a full day of ore, they were getting 160 pounds of cons. Okay? Now, assuming that 90% of that or more is silica that you can get rid of, that becomes 16 pounds of supercons. It's pretty easy to roast and process 16 pounds a day of sulfides. That's not a huge problem. Okay? So, right now they're retabling concentrates while they're waiting for the 100 mesh screen to show up. Again, they're down in Central America, so it's like you call on Amazon, they send the 100 mesh screen to their office in the United States. That office then overnights it down to Central America. Then it gets put on a bus and gets close enough for them to get it. So you're looking like 4 or 5 days for an overnight thing.
That is funny, Rock.
Yeah. Anyhow, you could honey bunny, but smelting it is a lot more energy intensive than roasting it first. Once you roast it, then theoretically you would regrind it and probably do another gravity separation first. But again, you test to see what makes the most sense, and then a leach of the roasted concentrates. Again, this is small enough that it doesn't take a very big container to hold that.
Only a soul for sneezes.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing right now. They're retabling their existing cons that they have stockpiled and are seeing what kind of a good upgrade. Now, another thing that a lot of people don't think of is these tailings here are super tailings, i.e., theoretically, they've got a lot more gold than the other tailings do. So send these right back to the head of the processing line. Okay, scavenge anything that's in them. The gold line cons here, you can pan that down and suck the gold right out of the pan to get a pretty darn clean gold concentrate. I mean, like 90% plus gold. Not too hard. And then you can take those pan tailings, mix them in with the sulfides, roast it, then again do a little gravity recovery probably, and then do a leach, and that'll get it all. Yeah, we still have no idea how much gold is trapped in, on, or along with the silicon. Okay?
Because assay results.
Because we have to get, more samples, better quality samples, more representative samples, more assay results. So far, we have 2 assays of tailings, and one was 2 parts per million, and the other was 14 parts per million. Okay, that's almost half an ounce to the ton. That's pretty bad for tailings. But that's the sort of thing where once you've taken the sulfides out by gravity, you can go ahead and leach it if you need to. You could tank leach, you could vat leach, but that's the sort of grades that if you don't have any gravity recoverable gold to speak of, that's where you leach it. So that's some of the results and conclusions and some of the adaptations we're making. I suspect we're going to increase their actual gold recovery somewhere between 2 to 10 fold before a couple weeks are out.
Good grief.
Oh, the old refrigerator line, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be real careful with
At least it
sulfur
wasn't
dioxide.
an ammonia fridge.
The idea is to do it out in the open with a nice stiff breeze and stay away from it. You can also wear appropriate respirators that'll filter it out. But anyhow, if in fact there's a lot of microfine gold that's not gravity recoverable, then you're probably going to have to go to leaching everything. Okay? It's not just concentrates at that point. It's now going to be bulk leaching the entire mass of ore. And that makes for a big problem in terms of logistically. With 20 tons of ore, If we're getting 10 pounds of cons, that's a piece of cake to leach. On the other hand, if you have to leach 20 tons of ore per day, you need a lot bigger tank and everything. Now, if it's running half an ounce to the ton, it's well worth it. You know, that's not a problem there. But I have some ideas on how to do it a lot cheaper than the gigantic tank that would normally be used. That would be what you would call vat leaching, and that is definitely a possibility. They actually do it down there. Jason called it jungle vat leaching. But 20 tons a day takes a fair amount of area. So you're getting in, and this place has what they call a rainy season. So you have to take into account at any time you might get 5 inches of rain on your leach pad. So that has to be addressed. It's not as simple as it is up here, but that's certainly a possibility, Honey Bunny, and I think that basic concept will be used a lot in the final process. But right now we are still attempting to figure out how much gold we have to start with and where is the gold going. You know, it's entirely possible that half the gold never makes it out of the ball mill and half of what's remaining never makes it past the spiral classifier. So what they're dealing with is only 1/4 of the original gold. That's not a good way to work. So we have to figure out exactly what's happening, and that you do by doing a lot of sampling, a lot of panning, and a modest amount of
acid
assaying.
rain could be a good thing, yeah.
Not if you're cyanide leaching.
Well, we already know how laissez-faire the safety standards are in that
Doesn't
part of
matter.
the world.
Acid rain
Yeah,
will
I know.
mess you up. That'll mess your alkalinity up. But anyhow, so
Well, they don't seem to have cared too much about the alkalinity so far.
well, they just have enough to make it work. I mean, the thing that scares me about the way they're stripping carbon is they'll take the equivalent of a 100-gallon stand-up propane tank and weld a pipe on the bottom end so they can drain it with a valve and put in a gallon of alcohol, a fair amount of baking soda, whatever amount of sodium cyanide they use, and fill it up with water around the carbon, and then they put it over a fire, basically. They heat it with a fire without a pressure relief valve. Okay? The idea
They're
is
just
to
being
keep
picky now.
the idea is to keep it at the right temperature so the internal pressure will do what you need without causing it to overpressure. Occasionally, the mill operator misjudges that, and they wind up with a 100-gallon propane tank spewing cyanide going 100 feet up in
What
the air.
scared me was the business end of the retort in the water
Yeah.
on their mercury retort.
Well, there's all kinds of things. But yeah,
Oh yeah, there are many things that scare me about what's going on down there.
so
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? That's my question,
I
Ron.
ran out of fingers, Rock. So this is the sort of thing that the level of technology that's going on down there, and what the gentlemen we're working with are trying to do is bring in the much more modern technology and apply it to the area. They went into it without a good grounding on the details of stuff, based on, they were told, okay, here's what you're going to have to do. And then when it turned out that they were doing it and it wasn't getting the results they wanted, that's when they came talking to me. So it's a very interesting project. I think, I think we'll be able to get them into profitability here within a couple of weeks, and then we'll go from there. And there's a lot of interesting possibilities at that point, assuming that they need to get rid of the ball mill too and go to impact milling to avoid a whole lot of gold trapping. Then the idea is to have them provide the resources to develop my Big Bob impact mill, because they need one. So
which we will be talking about more about the Big Bob as things go along.
Yeah. So as I say, that's kind of what's going on. It's been real interesting. These gentlemen are relatively intelligent and they're quick learners. They just really got into something they didn't know much about, based on other people saying, this is all you need to do, and we know how to do it. And it's like, well, apparently, no, they don't. So, but they're learning really quick, and we're making tweaks that I think will have dramatic impacts in the very short term. So I'm very hopeful that in a couple of weeks they'll basically be over the hump, and then we'll just work at making it better and better. So that's the evil plan. With any luck, we'll be down Central America this winter, teaching a fabricator down there how to build a bob mill, and so they can make their own bob mills and they can sell them down there, and they can expand their services and such in that area. It really is underserved in terms of modern technology, and part of the reason for that is cost and efficiency.
Cyanide link in Bhopal, India. Yeah, that was a pretty big one.
Now that's a good little phrase.
A lasting impact.
The Big Bob, a lasting impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that. Okay. And so anyhow, tentative plan is probably be starting construction of the impact mill in a couple of weeks, and depending
if we go to South America, it would be summer. Yeah, well, Central America,
it's always summer.
That would be fall.
It's always summer down there.
Well, yeah.
So close to the equator, it's always hot and humid. And
the nights and the days are pretty much equal length then?
Yeah, pretty much all the time.
Okay. Well, that's lovely.
So, and as a matter of fact, there's times of the summer when the sun at zenith is to the north of you. Okay. But, so then get the bob mill, the first prototype done, and start doing a lot of experimenting on it. And here, get the final production plan done, and the scheme, so to speak, how to build it. And then, go down there next winter and start building them and rearranging their mill. That's the evil plan. We will see how we can accomplish this, but it promises to be a pretty busy year. So, anyhow, that's how our week went. Is there anything else?
No, I can't think of anything, dude.
Had to replace a tire.
Well, yeah, there was the tire.
That's about it, I think. As far as I can tell, I'm doing fine vis-a-vis the heart thingy. Eva continues to do better, and the weather here is pleasant. And so we're looking at, lots to do. Lots to do. And the plan would be to set up the big bob out at the mill that we already have and, use it there. I suspect we can fill that tank in a couple hours. We'll probably have to make one or two more sluices, maybe get some more pumps for circulation. But yeah, I think we'll be able to fill that tank, posty hasty, and that will allow us to get some experience and try various parameters. The M word is in mining. No sense mining if you're not recovering something useful. So that's one of the things that sometimes people don't really apply, is the mining and the extractive metallurgy go hand in hand. You can't do either without the other. And finding a mineralized zone, mercury is inefficient. They're using that down there in Arastras, and they figure they're losing 50-60% of the gold. Yeah, mercury it's got problems, it's persistent toxin, things like that, but it is also not terribly efficient. Take care, Jean-Francois. And as such, there's no real benefit of using it anyhow. Thank you, Rock. And I say I think in a lot of ores you can probably get as much with a good quality gravity separation as you can with mercury. Strangely enough, I think they're about 6 1/2 dozen the other. One's just a lot harder to do. That mini sluice that we're running at the mill right now seems to be getting well over 50% recovery, although that's a decent coarseness of gold in the rock. I mean, we've had some particles up to 30 mesh. Most of it's in the. Let me look here. So from about 120 down to 300 mesh, and we're recovering that easily in the sluice. We seem to be getting pretty good recoveries down to about 400 mesh. After that, we're not catching anything after those mats to speak of in the 400 mesh plus range. Okay, and it seems to be grabbing everything at about 400 mesh and larger. No, tiny low velocity sluice not too long ago, but it looks like it would take 3 times forever. Yeah, well, he's the one that suggested I go with the VDR mat from Devon Gold, and I've got a 6-inch wide mat of VDR that's getting, if it's the first set of the first mat, it's getting 2/3 to 3/4 of the gold in about 28 inches. It's pretty efficient stuff. I'm not being real gentle. You can't see what's going on. It's a nasty, slurry looking stuff, but it's got a lot of it's almost all fine particles, but I've got stuff. I got a screen at the end of the sluice, and I'm getting particles, oh, up to 1/8 of an inch. Without too, not a whole lot, but I mean, there's some decent sized particles there that are coming through the sluice. So the sluice is operating at a velocity that it will push those through here. And so it's surprisingly effective. And, you know, I'd say that stuff seems to work pretty darn well. Although, you know, even the sluice I made, I mean, the mat I made by taking a mud flap and putting a sawtooth pattern with silicone on the back of it seems to do pretty good. I think the key is that you've got a very finely classified feed so that the rock can wash through pretty easily. And so you don't have to run the slopes and the velocities that you would with bigger rocks. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I'm pretty comfortable that we're getting most of the 400 mesh plus before it even hits the tank. I've never tried the Dream Mat, David. They look somewhat similar, but the VDR has worked really well for me. That's entirely possible, honey bunny. On the other hand, I have a suspicion I could probably hand pan it faster than he could put it through with the little mini sluice. It's say especially the key is I'm not trying to get every damn particle. If I get 90% of it in 3 minutes and then throw the rest into the head of the sluice, I didn't lose anything. So I do the next batch and do it real quick. That's my philosophy. Reasonable efficiency at really high speed. Okay. Thank you, Rock. And this project in Central America also demonstrates just how terribly useful the ability to hand pan microfine gold is, because he now has the ability to do an instant test of stuff coming off of the table and see what is this. You know, take like a piece of pipe split in half or just a bent piece of sheet metal or something, just hold it under one section of the outfalls of the sluice and into a bucket, I mean the table, into a bucket, and then pan it down, and you get a good idea what's happening. It also shows you the other stuff. It's not just the gold. It's the sulfides to silica ratio, all that kind of stuff. You can sit there and figure out what the hell's going on in real time. And that's extraordinarily useful. So, yeah, I'm really proud of developing that technique. Really am. So,
the gold magnet.
say that's kind of what's going on.
Rock Butcher says he's got Jean-Francois'
Yeah,
email.
I saw
Okay.
that.
I didn't know whether you saw it or
Yeah,
not.
I did.
Huh, I'm surprised my package hasn't come yet.
What, from Boston?
Oh no, I know that's going to be forever and a day. Ryan still is.
Tweaking?
No, he hasn't gotten around to it because he's been busy.
Yeah. He's a busy boy, that's for sure.
Hey, I told him I have not mentioned it once, and you're not going to hear me mention it.
Yeah. So.
He did actually remember to wish me Happy Mother's Day finally.
That's good.
Toward like the end of the conversation, he's like, "Wait, did I wish you happy Mother's Day. And I said, no, not yet. And he says, oh, happy Mother's Day.
Anyhow, does anyone have any questions or anything? I'll get you more pictures of the actual mineralized zone later, Rock. But, yeah, it's, I think there's a lot of gold in that hill.
Quite the hill.
Yeah.
I will say that is quite the
People
hill.
down there trying to recover silver, PGMs as well, or only the gold? Okay, that's an excellent question, Muscle. The silver, we are not trying to recover it.
Yeah.
Because it appears to be in about as much abundance as the gold and therefore 100 times less valuable. One would presume that we are going to get a fair percentage of the available silver just incidentally. When it comes to the PGMs, again, once ALS gets back to us, that's one of the tests we had run.
Yeah. If ALS gets back to you.
So,
sometime before the end of
that's
time. Worthless people.
Thank you, honey bunny. That might come in handy. Yep, I've saved it. But the oh darn, my train of thought just got derailed.
Platinum group members.
No. I did the platinum group. Another test that we're doing is that we're waiting on the results from is he had a sample of roasted gold line cons that he brought with him. Now, I didn't have the ability to fine grind it real well, although I bet you I could have put that in a disposable blender.
Yeah.
And it would have worked. That probably would have broken it up pretty good. I need to remember that. But anyhow, so
okay.
I took that and another sample, I forget which one it was. And I think it was just the mixed concentrates, from the 4 different tables. And panned out all the gravity concentratable gold I could. And to create what I call a depleted sample. And that will give us an idea of what percentage of the available gold can be recovered fairly readily by gravity means. Okay? Now this is, again, a very important criteria for developing your techniques and, to a certain extent, the hardware. And we don't have those results either. So hopefully sometime in the not too distant future, before the sun goes supernova, we'll have some results on a lot of these important questions that currently we're a little bit up in the air on right now.
Well, it's not like we're getting much in the way of actual customer service from.
Yeah. Well, again, when you're a little teeny person with a few samples and you're dealing with a multinational corporation, don't expect to be the number one priority, even if you pay a rush.
No, I don't expect to be the number one priority, but I expect to be somewhere on the damn list.
Well, you are.
Hello.
Low on the list. But anyhow, so those are, again, some really important questions that we have very little data on right now. PGMs, we had a full analysis, ordered on that. And we've got, I think it was depleted mixed cons and depleted roasted cons. And again, the question was how much, I can get out by gravity separation. And that's really important. They had their best men on Eva. Yeah, lying on them probably.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I said that was a very good question, and we don't have the answer to it yet. At this point, there's no no plan on intentionally targeting the silver. It would be a byproduct without, as far as I can tell, any special processes dedicated to try and improving that I can aware of. Now, another thing I found, Brandon forwarded me stuff from Purolite, who do resins and stuff. And according to them, with this particular resin that we're looking at, to get the other metals out of it, you use a more dilute thiourea acid solution, clean all those out first, then you go to a more concentrated acid thiourea solution to actually strip the gold from the resin. So we'll see. That might work on the Max Water resin too. I don't know. But it was really interesting. And, you know. Yeah, I guess things are a little bit more informal in those areas, Rock. But anyhow, so yeah, those are good questions. We're waiting on answers. They have been asked, they just haven't been answered yet. The silver in these samples was between 1 and 1 2/3 as much as the gold was, according to these fire assays. So there's a significant amount, but not economically. If you can keep some kind of chatter or something going for a minute, Llewellyn, I'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Yeah, we're having to use Dropbox now, and it's ridiculous, as usual. Many things are ridiculous. Be that as it may, gold and silver are still on sale. As a matter of fact, there was a small extra discount that has been coming into play the last few days. So this is a great time to stock up on your precious metals. Sadly, because we are in a cash poor situation at the moment, I'm not that lucky. So I'm hoping some of y'all buy extra and think of me when you do it, because that would be very nice. Eggs are still coming down. Gasoline is coming down in some parts of the country, but not in others, for bizarre and unaccountable reasons that are just there, you know. I mean, who knows why that is the case. We shall see what we shall saw on that issue. And it should be noted that a lot of people are all worried about, like the fact that their junk from Temu is going to go up in price. Oh dear. Be still my beating heart. You know, it has dawned on the goddess that if people really cared about the state of the environment, perhaps they would stop buying cheap, disgusting junk that comes from halfway around the world, and they would buy the products produced in their own countries, made with pride in the USA, made with pride in Canada, made with pride in the UK, etc., etc. And it has also dawned on the goddess that if people actually cared about the ethics behind their stuff, this is something that gets discussed frequently on social media. That, we have to boycott Hershey because cocoa, the chocolate they use, is extraordinarily unethical. But for some reason, we're not boycotting cashews, despite the fact that the way cashews are processed is extremely unethical. Oh, we really must worry about water. but we're not boycotting almonds, and almonds are horribly, horribly water intensive, amongst other things. It's interesting to see this in the vegan community because the vegans are very selective about
Outrage.
their outrage and where it's directed, and as far as practical. If you're a meat eater, then as far as practical means you're supposed to starve to death and suffer all kinds of physical ailments, and eat plants despite your allergies, and you're supposed to cheerfully kill yourself to eat plants and save the poor animals. But if it means giving up the almond milk, oh, forget that nonsense. Well, that's the thing. We are framing this whole tariff thing all wrong here, okay? We should be framing this tariff thing as we are sincerely trying to save the entire planet by getting rid of all of these cheap plastic things that are being brought halfway across the country and making a huge carbon imprint when they come halfway across the world to do it. We're seriously, if we all get back to made with pride in our own country, even if it means you only have 4 or 5 different toys to choose from instead of 72, or you actually have to buy fashion that's more expensive, why, we'd be saving the planet now, wouldn't we? And it would be so much more ethical because the things that we are bringing into our home would not be the product of sweatshop labor, child labor, indentured servitude, or the big S word that we're not supposed to use,
Really?
But sadly, our political class doesn't want to frame it that way because then we might actually have to do something about it and they'd stop making money. Ooh. Well, we can't have that now, can we? Anyway, silver and gold are still on sale. So this is a great time for you to buy silver and gold. This is also a great time to stock up on meat products because, well, meat is getting a little bit sketchy in some places. Eggs are coming down, which is a good thing. But back up the truck on your silver and your gold because if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Bye.
Anyhow, any other questions at this point? How's things going with you, Rock? Busy summer, I guess, huh? David says bye-bye, Eva.
Rock Butcher is probably doing very important shit.
I'm pretty sure he is. I think he's in Canada this summer, though, mostly. I don't think he's down in Arizona so
Well,
much.
it's not summer yet. Dude, it's only May. It's still spring.
Mr. Virtue says, thanks, Eva. Eva, what happened to the foil hat? She forgot to put it on.
Yeah, it's here. I was only asked to hold down the fort for a moment or two. That was not an official tinfoil hat report. The goddess was just making it clear that she thinks all this bullshit. Whoa! That should be cool, Rock.
Well, at least it's in your neck of the woods, not... Well, Ontario's pretty tall. Hope the commute is not too far.
That's cool.
Well, that's important, honey bunny. Not as exciting. So, I'm glad things are going well there. Yeah, we might have a little trip to Central America. We can get you in on this winter time sometime. I'd like to have you take a look at that area there and see what you think.
That would be so cool.
Yep.
Of course, I'd drive Rock crazy because I would be following him around asking stupid questions.
Following around another man, huh?
Well, yeah, he knows shit.
Oh man, that's harsh. Harsh.
I'm always following people around who know things.
Yeah, well, it's still a lot closer than Arizona. We'll see what we can line up, Rock. So, right now, mining is not the emphasis. Right now, getting the mill working is.
Really, I mean, that's important.
But there is such a thing as a stupid questioner. Anyhow.
Are you implying that I'm a stupid questioner?
No.
Half the time
That's what Rock said.
Yeah. He said there's no such thing as a stupid question. You said there was such a thing as a stupid questioner. Therefore, you are implying that I am a stupid questioner.
No.
And the other day, you implied I was fat.
No. I don't recall that one.
Oh, yeah.
No.
He
Ecuador
did.
is
He
not in
implied
Central
I was
America.
fat.
Ecuador is not in Central America.
You didn't have to. He did. He is skating on the edge of disaster over here, Rock.
Always my fault, Rock.
You are skating on the edge of disaster, dude. You
Oh.
really are. You're actually thinking that you're gonna get away with this.
Anyhow, so as I say, that's the sketch of the future here. Yeah, David, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the help again. Chris and Rock and a lot of people have been very helpful over the years. So I do appreciate that. But we'll see what happens if Lauren has a couple of days he can help me fabricate. Or actually, I could help him fabricate. We could probably get that mill done pretty easily. On the other hand,
On the other hand, he wore a glove.
Yep. But anyhow, it's not a heck of a lot more complicated than the last one. Just a lot bigger. And say, I may need to buy me a welder. I don't want to use Lauren's welder. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want me to. He's got really good stuff, and I am more likely to screw it up than anything else. So I'll just buy a cheap welder if I have to.
Yeah. Lauren knows a lot of buy once, cry once.
Okay, Rock. But as I say, with a little luck, and it's not something I can do by myself. I'll have to do it over at his shop anyhow, because there's things where I'm going to need the, what do you call it? The little crane thingy, not the big one, but the little engine hoist sort of thing. Because just the chamber, when all welded together, just the chamber component is 240 pounds of steel. Then there's the liners that go in it. Then there's a rotor that goes in it. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just the cover plate is going to run like 60 pounds. That I can probably pick up without too much problem. But as I say, once we get it together, it's a beast. No, you can't use brazing for this. Yeah, it needs. I'll be MIG welding it. Yeah, that's pretty close, honey bunny. Yeah, this brazing isn't what we need here. We need really solid attachments and such. So, MIG welder can do it pretty easily. And depending upon how things works out. I mean, if he's got a couple of days that he can apply to it, once I get all the parts and everything, we should be able to whip that into pretty good shape in a couple of days. Then there's going to be stuff where I'm bolting and this and that and the other, but getting the chamber put together and the main frame put together. After that, oh, and the rotor, then we should be in reasonably good shape. It might take another day or so. It's going to have wheels that can be taken off easily or whatever, but so theoretically I can just put it in a trailer, tie it down, get out to the mill, and then roll it into place. It might be more like prying it into place, but yeah. And
well, my thought is one of the biggest problems with this bob mill is when we get it together, you said it's going to weigh over 1,000 pounds, and we're going to have to move the damn thing. It's not going to be portable.
Wheels. It's going to have wheels.
Yeah. We've seen that happen before.
Oh,
hell no.
Yeah, I don't think so, David.
There is no giving up the silver. I am utterly and completely disgusted that nobody gives silver the amount of credit that it should get.
Yeah. This is designed so that once you wheel it into place, you just pick it up a little bit, set the legs on blocks, no problem. And I'm going to have to do a lot of testing, things like, make sure that the pulley set that I've originally designed for works well. Don't have to, change out any pulleys. Make sure the bearings hold up well. What kind of grind you get, what kind of throughputs you get, things like that. Icon pick?
Which icon pick?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Mr. Virtue. You mean the one that was in the beginning, the thumbnail for this live stream? If so, that's not my mind, no. That's the one down in Central America. So, say that's going to be a fair amount of work there. I'm going to have a lot of running around to do, getting things lined up, ordered in, et cetera, et cetera. Once we have the go ahead and the money. No, David, that's not mine. That's the one in Central America. That's the one I'm consulting on, basically. But no, that's not mine. Yeah. Nope, Mr. Virtue. Again, that's the one in Central America. So.
And it's not really that great a look. I mean, as mine
Yeah, it looks pretty mineralized. So we shall see what we shall see. As they get deeper, they may wind up with a lot more sulfides too. It's hard to tell.
Who knows?
So, that's basically my evil plans for the summer and fall and winter. Busy, busy, busy. So far, the heart thing isn't slowing me down. So, thank the Lord for that. Oh, yeah. You got that right, honey bunny. I wish that one was mine. The grades are good enough. Yeah.
Oh, good grief.
I think I've got the equipment that, I could get into small production pretty quickly on that baby.
On his days off.
Yeah. Yeah. Days off? What are days off? We're going to have to take a couple of days when your son comes here for his wedding reception. Is Ryan going to make a separate trip, or is he just going to be here with that, or is he not even going to be here with that?
He's going to be here with that.
Okay. We're going to have
And hopefully the ex isn't.
the ex?
Yeah, their father.
Oh, your ex. Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. But anyhow, well, he's got to take care of the cats.
We hope.
So we got that. I may have family visit or things like that. I should have a few days off, but I don't really need a lot of days off as long as I'm doing something interesting. It's not that critical to me. Some people gotta have, a couple of days a week to just go do something entirely different. That's not me. As long as it's interesting, I can work, 12-hour days, no problem, psychologically. Not sure what the physically thing is right now, but psychologically, yeah. And so I don't see a problem with that. It's a lot to get done. My question is, how do I shoehorn the mill in, building the new mill, with the other projects around here? And how will that work? Because it may come in real handy around here too. Because, as say, Jeff Kablock said that we could have 10 tons of one of his dumps that's running pretty good grade in return for basically figuring out how to get the gold out of it. And so the Big Bob would be a very handy tool for that quest. Wouldn't it be nice to just be able to go out there and in half a shift fill that tank, little one?
Yeah, it would be, but
Yeah. So that's kind of the plan, and hopefully it'll work out pretty good. Right now, get the guys in Central America making good money, get my plans done. And the diagrams are pretty close to done, but there's a lot more than that in terms of the plan. You got to figure out who's going to cut the steel, where the steel's going to come from, all the various parts and sundry things, get them ordered in. The exact sequence that you put things together, so you don't go, well, gee, if I'd have done this earlier, it would be a lot easier.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
No, you missed all kinds of fun stuff today, Brian.
Yeah, you'll have to go back. But go ahead and put up that goal line picture. This is from a table down at the mill in Central America, Brian.
I'm working on it, guys.
Seems such a complicated process.
Yeah, it is. That's why I keep telling you that you need to hold on a second while I deal with this.
She's working on it.
Then yo-yo
A
all
lot of clicks. And there's the top of a Whiffley table down there in Central America, Brian. And the sulfides contain a lot of gold also. I mean, in terms of crystal locked in the sulfides. When you roast them, you get 8.5 times more gold than if you leach them without roasting them. So that's crystal lock. But there's a nice little gold line there. Okay, you can take it off now, little one. I'm sorry, little one. You don't have to take it off instantly, but yeah. Okay, I can see it now. So, anyhow, say that's my year looks like it's going to be real busy until, I don't know, February, something like that. You bet, Brian. And don't you wish you could get a line like that?
Don't you wish you could?
Yeah, I do.
All right then.
But anyhow, so that is,
I wish I could get silver like that.
it'd have to be about 100 times wider to make it worthwhile.
Not for me.
Well, if you can't make money at it, you might as well just go down and buy some.
Well, I would.
So, anyhow, so they do have gold, but the indications are a lot of it's getting away from them. A lot of that we can probably fix pretty easily. A lot of it may require major changes to the milling process. Cool, Brian. My suspicion is when they leach the roasted concentrates, they can just direct electrowin out of that solution. I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty rich. So, that's my plan for the year. Oh, and recovering from a heart attack too. But that seems to be pretty much done almost. So, we shall see what we shall see.
I was going to say, it's not looking like you're having any.
Not yet. Anybody else got any questions or anything? Oh, let me show something to Brian here, since he's here. Here's something interesting, Brian. Really? Well, good luck, honey bunny. So, here's the spot test. Now, this and this are the same material, except this was before roasting and this is after roasting. So the roasting, even though that's, a lighter color, it's more of a cleaner color. There's something else that was being dissolved in the Eco Goldex and precipitated by the KD3 that was kind of messing things up.
Oh, tell them about the titration.
Which titration?
Remember how the titration got all milky and stuff?
Oh, yeah. We were
That
also
was really
titrating.
cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, Rock. But anyhow, so the roasting seemed to prevent something from reacting with the Eco Goldex, which is fine with me. Me, probably this winter, Mr. Virtue. I don't know, Brian. I haven't the faintest idea. I mean, to find out, you could do a multi-element analysis on both solutions and see what the difference was. But I really don't have a good idea. So, because we didn't do the thorough analysis on both solutions.
Yeah, that titration was the interesting part.
Yeah. But, yeah, there's a lot of gold there. And it's working good. Also, Eva was titrating the Eco Goldex solution. Was that in the roasted stuff?
Yes, it was. And this was the important part. He decided it would be a great idea to just go ahead and add Eco Goldex without testing the freaking pH. And it's like, and I pointed out to him that more than once I have had my Eco Goldex depleted while my pH was not affected. So I wanted to do both tests. Well, anyway, I went to do a titration test. And normally what happens is when you titrate with the silver nitrate and the titration stuff, it'll turn pink, the indicator. Yeah. It'll turn pink. This time it didn't turn pink, but right at 1.5, it started turning milky white. and then all this milky white stuff settled to the bottom of the leach solution and
The
turned
little test cup, yeah.
the little test cup and turned bluish gray
After over time.
over time.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we had us some silver chloride or something going on there.
What I'm thinking it happened, Brian, was as she was adding the silver nitrate titrant solution, reactant solution, it was reacting with the Eco Goldex until such time as the Eco Goldex was consumed, and then it was now available as silver nitrate, and there were some chlorides in the solution, and so it precipitated white silver chloride. And the silver chloride is photosensitive, so that would account for it changing color from white to a dark bluish gray. That was probably metallic silver.
Yeah.
Agreed, David. So anyhow, that was just, I say, another interesting observation.
Yeah, all kinds of interesting stuff be going on there.
Yeah. I say, it's a real interesting puzzle, and because I can't go down there, it doesn't take up a whole lot of my time, but I'm doing a lot of stuff. It's keeping my life busy while I'm still sitting around the house instead of working my butt off because of my heart. But we should be firing up the mill next week. We're waiting on a couple of items that we ordered in, and once they get here, we will go ahead and fire up the mill and start recovering, gold out of the stockpiles of ore we have. So, we're looking at a pretty busy time. So, that's where we're at. Any other questions at this point? Oh, dearie. Keeping up with current events is also pretty wild. I'm setting up.
Edit
Okay.
current expert. That sounds cool.
That'll be interesting to see how that works, Brian. Not sure how selective it'll be. That could get interesting.
Well, it reduced on its own over time, I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
I agree, honey bunny. But I say we were just testing the solution for the Eco Goldex levels, and that particular test. Nice thing about a bottle roll is you don't have to. Got plenty. Yeah, got plenty of Eco Goldex there. That's the sort of thing. But yeah, everything's going pretty good. Go ahead and ask Mr. Virtue. He's got a question for you.
Yeah?
That's what I was thinking, Brian. That could be a pretty complicating factor for you.
Yeah, what's your question, Mr. Virtue?
There's a big delay. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Okay. Honey bunny, interesting. We're also planning on staking a placer claim up by our load claim. There's a creek that runs through there, and there's no other placer claims on that area, so the idea is to put a placer claim slightly overlapping the load claim, and then, when people come up here or whatever, we can go out panning and stuff too. Mr. Furcher said, how's Keith?
Doing fine as far as I know.
Yeah, Heart seems to be doing just fine. I'm not really running into any issues. We're taking it carefully. Oh, she's right here. She's doing the technical stuff.
I'm doing the computer. He doesn't do anything with tech.
Yeah, I do. I fuck it up.
Well, that too.
So, anyhow, that's about it for this week. And we shall see what we get next week. But it is fun, involved in a real project here. Where we're making a difference, and the whole process is then sending videos. Then we can discuss them. Works. Yeah, I am, dude. And we seem to be making a lot of progress real fast. So if there's no more questions or anything, we'll probably call it a night.
Well, decide what you want to do.
I'm just waiting to see if anyone's got any questions or anything. I would imagine by next week we're going to get the answers from ALS, but I wouldn't. Oh yeah, she's a very valuable asset, Mr. Virtue. Well, go ahead, honey bunny. So, as I say, hopefully we'll get some stuff from ALS and the hand panning of the stuff at the mill down there, and we'll have a better idea of exactly where the gold is and where it's going and how much we got. But okay, everybody, happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.